Here we are, once again, this evening, just as I did last evening. I'm going to be reading from The Snake Doctor.
Ah, okay.
The Snake Doctor.
All right, hold on one second there.
I think we might need a little bit more.
I think we do need a bit more light. Hold on.
I don't know if we do or not, because I'm in the dark most of the time. In so many ways. I think this is better.
Yeah, that's much better.
Okay.
All right. Coming out of the dark, even though you're reading a mysterious book, you don't need to be in the dark.
The Snake Doctor. As those who've been following me know, I've been advertising my books. I have a total of, I think, 42. And we decided to make an effort to make these books better known. Those who know them already know them. The Snake Doctor, I'm calling it the first African Tarzan, the very first one. Mm-hmm. I'm discounting all the rest of the guys who used to swing through the trees and holler and scream and whatnot. Mm-hmm. This is a man from a slightly different scenario, the Snake Doctor. The cover photo was done by the inimitable Nina Simone.
Not.
Just kidding. Mm-hmm. But done by Zola Salena. And it's a beautiful one, I think. So the photo is of our friend Bahati. Mm-hmm. And he was kind of generous enough to lend us his visage to cover the book. Mm-hmm. Last evening I read chapter 1, which was the beginning of the beginning. Today I'm on chapter 2. I'd like to say this also before I begin. I think that this might be one of the first, this might be one of the first of the Pan African books to be given some publicity in this country. I'm sure there have been other people who've written books with African themes, other African American writers who've written books with African themes, but I've never seen it done in any general way. And at least 6 or 7 of the books I've written focus specifically on the Pan African Occult. It would take a long time to explain seriously what that means, but I'll give you the short version. It is not the European occult. Okay, zombies, werewolves, Frankenstein, and so forth and so on. The Pan African Occult is something that feeds on a far different spirit and operates in a different way, comes from a different mindset, from a different theological point of view, from a different natural point of view. It comes from Africa. So, having said that, off we go into chapter 2. Alfred, I hope that you're reading along with me. 8 years later, after 4 years of battling the racist bastards in the USC Film School, sorry, Mr. Brown, we just don't have an authority who can validate your thesis, your film short, your claim that there were African explorers in the Polynesian/Melanesian Islands. We'll have to ask you to pick another subject area. They came before Columbus, Van Sertima. Mr. Brown, the film committee can definitely appreciate your desire to focus on unknown African presence here and there, but we must insist that your subject areas pass certain benchmarks. This new subject area, they came before Columbus, for example. We don't have any hard evidence to substantiate your premise. In other words, you can't find a white PhD. That's a good one. In other words, you can't find a white PhD who's willing to admit what I'm saying is the truth. And you won't accept the credentials of the African American historians that I've submitted. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Diop, and all the rest. 4 solid years of arguments, debates, disagreements. At one point, midway into my junior year, I was half a finger snap from slapping the shit out of 2 of my racist snake dog asshole instructors. Turning over a desk or 2, calling most of the people in the film school a sack load of motherfuckers and stomping off to Brazil to the Congo or somewhere. I was pissed. I'm still pissed. Despite the fact that this is a fictional character.
There you go.
Mom and Dad sat me down in the library, our serious conference room, opened a bottle of Harvey's Bristol Cream, and slowly, coolly spelled the past, the present, and the future out to me. Now that I think back on it, I have the feeling that they had carefully orchestrated their talk with me. Dad came first with the past. Mom laid out the present, and they took interwoven shots at my head with the future. Now, Kojo, let's make this clear and simple. We can't allow you to drop out of school because of racism. Personally, I think that we are a slap in the face of all your ancestors. All of those brothers and sisters who struggled gave their lives for us, for you to be able to get to where you are. I'm sure you'll have to agree with me when I say that we told you so. We told you from day one that this place has a fascist, racist foundation. So you can't tell us that you thought you were going to go to this institution and find a level playing field. The lessons of the past have taught us that this place and its institutions have deep reservoirs of racism. You hear what I'm saying? What else could I do but tip my cherry and nod in agreement? From time to time, the reservoirs seem to be at a lowered level, especially when there's a large-scale war or some other national crisis that forces the usual suspects to reach out for all the colored hands and bodies they can find. But as soon as the dark cloud passes, things tend to return to what they were. Don't misunderstand me. What I'm saying, racism is, has been, and probably always will be a thread in this society's fabric. The reason why? Because the usual suspects would have to do 3 radically different things. Number 1, they would have to tell the absolute truth about how the Europeans cheated, stole, and took this land away from the indigenous people. Number 2, they would have to tell the absolute truth about the role that the African importees played in the development of this new world. Number 3, they would have to be willing to share the power. And as you know, that's something they've never done, and they're not very likely to do anytime soon.
No.
Mom slid in right after Dad said soon. Kojo, think about it. Films, movies are the audio-visual aids of this time. Film, video, TV, VCR, all of this stuff has ulterior objectives. Me and your father haven't been to a movie in years. Why? Because they're not making films, movies for people like us, for thinking people. They can give us a bunch of gobbledygook, gender, demographic, age crap about movies being made only for 15 to 35-year-olds, or whatever they choose to call it. The truth of the matter is that they cornered a herd of non-thinking people and decided to force feed them chewing gum for the eyeballs and the emotions, bubble up stuff that explodes on cue and completely lacks substance. That's what makes your presence on the scene so desirable and necessary. Kojo, don't you understand what your mother is saying? What else could I do but nod and sit? They could whip my ass with their logic harder than any other weapon in their arsenal. Kojo, let me follow up with what your mother was saying. We need you, son. We need to have the alternative perspective your eyes and your sensitivities are going to bring to the scene. It's never been easy, Kojo, never. I can't think of any conscious African-American woman who has ever given birth to a child, male or female, and thought, well, now that's done. They got it made. No, my son, it's never been that way with us. We've always been forced to think, what can I do to put a firewall up for this boy, for this girl? Because I know the virus is lurking somewhere, everywhere. What your mother says is true, Kojo. And that goes for the African-American man also. It doesn't give you a good feeling to know that you are the father of a son, a daughter, who is going to be pounded on by the society that this child is born into. You're a filmmaker, Kojo. A person who has the vision to return some of this racist craziness around. A person who can give America a different slant on itself. Kojo, I think you have a sacred obligation on your shoulders. Look, you might have to endure a little racist nonsense bullshit for a little while, and that's regrettable, no doubt about that. But the sacrifices you make will benefit a whole slew of people who will come after you, and make no doubts about it. There are bunches of them waiting in the wings. The question they will be asking us is, did Kojo make it?
Wow.
Kojo, I think your mother has basically put the whole thing in a nutshell, so I'm not going to belabor the point. All I would like to suggest to you, finally, is that you put your personal agenda, goals, ego, on ice for a little while longer. We're not asking you to bow down and kiss anybody's ass or anything like that. We're just asking you to put racism into its proper perspective and keep on stepping.
Amen.
What if, think about this, what if Harriet Tubman, Henry Box Brown, Mary McLeod Bethune, George Washington Carver, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Marcus Garvey, Dr. John Henry Clark, Obama, and God only knows how many others had decided, hey, this racism stuff is too heavy for me, I got to give it up. Maybe the sherry was a contributing factor. Maybe the sherry was a contributing factor, but I left our family conference feeling energized. Shit. I was Kojo Betty Arco Brown, son of Kofi and Njinga Brown. What right did I have to give up, to surrender? It was no contest from that point, and I went on a satirical, historical charade that completely messed my academic screeners up. In rapido succession, I made requests to do 15-minute student films about the Scottish discovery of chitlins, the European discovery of a tribe of Kalahari people in Eastern Europe who had lost their way due to the effects of global warming, the African-American pimp and how he came to be. I used visual subliminals to suggest that African-American pimping at the street level was a subversion of the Americans' place in American life. Some of the people at USC grew to hate my guts for twisting their comfortable little shit around. But there were others, they've asked me not to reveal their names, who gave me lots of encouragement. In my case, I survived my junior year doubts and climbed up out of the USC Film School cesspool smelling like a rose. It didn't take a long time at all for me to get a whole bunch of assistant director, second unit director, and associate producer gigs. I was a USC Film School grad, and the powers that are gave me some brownie points for having endured, persevered, and stuck it out. So, Kojo, unusual name. We see here that you're a USC Film School grad. I did it all. Instructional films, industrial films, anti-AIDS films, whatever. In every case, I made my business to tweak it up with my own special sense of style to put on that Kojo touch. Over the period of 4 years, I was in a very good spot. I'd set up my own production company, I was preparing myself to explore the outer perimeters of the creative, lucrative world. Kojo, remember, artists may start off being hungry, but they don't have to stay hungry. Dig it? Mm-hmm. It was time to go back to Africa again, to Ghana, to feel that feeling again. Mm-hmm. I was 25, good age to be. Mm-hmm. So the minute the window opened, I flew. Ghana, in the forms of the two sisters I had dealt with during the course of my first trip, had changed radically. Comfort Lartey and Grace Vivian Hulivor were as different as proverbial night and day when I first met them at a wise old age of 18. Comfort was about as radical as the Ghanaian circumstances would allow her to be. I don't care what the Europeans say. It is all a crock of crap. Grace was at the other end of the pole. Think about it, Kojo. If the English had not come to Ghana, we would still be having tribal wars and worshipping fetish gods. I can't say what happened because I wasn't there to see how the change had occurred, but a change had occurred. Comfort, the radical bohemian, had become a religious nut, a conservative. Kojo, I can't do it with you what we used to do because Jesus wouldn't like that. If you don't tell him, I won't tell him.
Oh, naughty.
And everything will be cool. Oh, you are blaspheming. And you may be forced to pay for your transgression by spending an eternity in hell.
Oh, my.
As my lawyer friend Horace Hennessy Harper used to say, I absconded from comfort without any malice or forethought.
Okay.
Grace took up the slack. Oh, Kojo, I'm so pleased that you have returned. She made me feel like the prodigal lover. It didn't take me long to find out that an older African-American brother, 35 maybe, I had been on the scene during our interim separation. Charles introduced me to jazz music. I wouldn't allow myself to have jealous pangs or anything like that. After all, when I split back to America, we hadn't signed the romantic agreement, or whatever they called it. We had made some real good love, no doubt about that. But we hadn't created a foundation for anything. In some ways, it made things better between us. I hadn't told her any lies, and she hadn't offered any false hopes. We fell into each other's arms and offered each other lots of emotional space. I wasn't simply in Ghana for her. I was in Ghana for the sake of being in Ghana. She understood that. That's why I wound up spending time in a village called Chito. T-S-I-T-O. So, my African-American man, you want to go see how life is in the village, eh? Well, you shall have your wish. Give this note to my auntie Eugenia in the village called Chito. So that's how I wound up spending a week in the village of Chito and making the acquaintance of Mr. Asiafo, the wizard. Mr. Asiafo, the wizard. But first, a few words about the village called Chito. But that's something incredible has changed in the last few days. You're not likely to find a place on any map anywhere, not even in Ghana. It's in the northeastern section of the country, somewhere between here and there, about 12, maybe 1,500 people. It's unusual in the sense of having a young population as well as an old population. It's one of those places where all of the young people have not jumped up and gone to the big city. Why should I leave Chito? I love this place. It would be hard for me to figure out what there was to love in Chito. There were only 2 taps of running water in the whole village, and sometimes when the dry season, the Harmattan, comes, the water stops flowing. During the rainy season, from like May to December, the place is May to September, the place is like a mud hole. There's no telephone service. Someone told me while I was there that they had 2 telephones at one time.
Wow.
But something happened to spoil them. And we're waiting for the repairs to be made. People grow their own food, corn, beans, okra, plantains, mangoes, sugarcane, and they raise chickens and pigs. There's a forest surrounding Chito, which supplies wild game, mostly bush meat and deer. The people are relatively healthy, but there are no extras, no luxuries. Chito is not the place to go if you want to see bright lights and dancing girls. I went there because I wanted to experience the real Ghana. Accra, Kumasi, Tamale. The big cities are just like big cities everywhere, and they're overpopulated, dirty, unhealthy. So, my African American man, you want to go see how life is in the village, yeah? These were Grace's words, and her note to her aunt Eugenia and Chito was my passport to the primitive life and my meeting with Asiafo. Grace Vivian Hulevo. Of course I knew that Kojo had another girlfriend when he came to Ghana here. The first time, it was no big thing. We were very young. It was an exciting experience for me. A wild African-American boy, and he was nice to me. And I'm going to leave that alone because we're coming to the end of chapter 2.
Okay, we get to the end?
Yes, we're coming to the end of chapter 2, but I want to save the end of chapter 2 so that it flows into chapter 3 in a way that will be quite seductive. Having said that, I would like for you to know that I'm having a really good time reading these books because I haven't read some of them myself in years.
I know, they're like your children
I
that
don't know
you
what's
create.
in them.
Yeah, they're like children you create and then you just send them off into the world.
I've always
give them
believed
published.
that. I know some poets, including a friend of mine, a really fine poet, one of the Watts prophets, Brother MD, Father MD, who can remember poems he wrote when he first started writing, 30 years ago or something.
Wow.
Sometimes I have to actually go through the first 2 or 3 chapters for these books, for these prose books. And in addition, I don't remember the poems either, but I really have a hard time with the prose books. Like you say, they're babies you had, children you have, you put wings on them, let them fly away.
And you have such a pile of those incubating on your desk to be born.
To be precise, I have 10 of them.
Oh my goodness.
I have 10 of them.
You have over 10 that haven't been published.
But
yet.
I'm not writing them all at the same time.
Okay.
The one that I'm focusing on right now is taking place in this time, this real time, and in this real place. And I make no bones about the fact that it concerns the attempt by a political leader and a political party to turn this democracy into a fascist nation.
Gotcha.
And I think all of us who write, who sing, who dance, who prance, who do whatever they do, should, put up our voices in defense of this democracy. As flawed as it might be, it's still better than the fascism of a Trump, or as my Spanish-speaking friend calls it, El Tromposo. El Tromposo wants to trample on everything that we've worked to build up, and we won't let him do it. I don't know if I should have said that at the beginning of the reading or now. In any case,
okay.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. The book can be purchased at Author House.
Good show.
Or at
Good show.
Amazon. Or at Barnes & Noble, or your local bookstore. Just go in and say, I want a copy of The Snake Doctor by Odie Hawkins. And it is also an ebook. So, I guess that's enough to say.
That's enough
until the end of chapter 2 and the beginning of chapter 3.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. And